So hello on YouTube. Today's talk is called Awakening 3 Most Important Factors, None Are a Practice. Yeah, so what are the 3 most important factors in awakening? And what is awakening? So many people use the word in so many different ways. So Ramesh Balsekar, my teacher, he used to say liberation isn't, he used to call it enlightenment. He used to say enlightenment isn't a certified event. So somebody doesn't come and stamp it and be like, okay, this person's enlightened. Like, it's a flexible term that everyone has different definitions to. And I don't always know what people mean by awakening or liberation or enlightenment. Yeah. So my definitions are, I use awakening for many different things. So you can have the awakening of no self, you can have an energetic awakening, you can have Kundalini awakening, you can have mini awakenings where there's like letting go of things and then like an expansion that happens briefly. There can be awakening of the energetic body. So when you drop from the mind into the body, and then there's the awakening of that. So I use it in many different ways. But here, in this title, the way in which I mean it is awakening as in the awakening, what I consider the non-dual awakening, which is the awakening to no self, to emptiness, and then the energetic expansion back into love. So the emptiness and the love coming back together. Yeah. So what are the 3 most important factors to that? So this is my interpretation of the 3 most important factors. And these can happen at different stages. They don't always happen all together. For me, I had the love awakening first in childhood, but it would come and go, the love awakening. But I have the love awakening kind of all the way through childhood, but particularly when I started this practice of imagining the perfect lover. And as I imagined it and really got taken over by that imagination, this love arose, and then the imagination would disappear and I'd just be left with love. But before that, I'd been having them as well. I felt like the same as what I think a lot of people in the audience are like, is that I could hear God in my childhood. You just get some people that are born like that, whether it's karma or just random, particular life setups, who knows what that is. And I used to hear God in many ways. I would hear God in music, for sure. My mom loved to take me to concerts. In fact, we're going to one tonight. She loved to take me to concerts and musical theatre, and I used to hear it in the silence between I used to hear God in the silence between scene changes, when the music stopped and everyone was waiting for the next scene. And I used to hear God. I went to a Catholic school, even though my family was Church of England. Yeah, that happens in England sometimes. And we used to have this chapel, and I used to hear God every time I walked down the chapel aisle. It was like something about the echoes and the stillness and the silence and this like beautiful weight of the place. I just heard God. I used to hear God in Mary's face, or see God in Mary's face. We had a big image of Mary at the front, with her head bent to the side. I used to hear God in playing outside and looking up at the sky. I used to hear God in films, that I was really touched in films, and in play, and just in the wonder, in the beauty, in the nature, in the animals. And I'm sure a lot of people can recognize that. You're hearing or seeing God. Yeah. And yeah, I've forgotten why I started talking about hearing God. Oh yeah, because I was talking about mine was the first, was love awakening. So you have the love awakening, you have the emptiness awakening, and then you have them coming together. So like they're merging in together. So some people have the love awakening first, but some people have the awakening one first, the empty one first, sorry. So some people have the emptiness sphere first. And sometimes the people that have the emptiness one, they can become particularly afraid, because that can be really scary. So often I meet people that have the emptiness one first, and it might have brought along a lot of terror with it. Whereas for me, the emptiness one didn't start coming until after I'd done lots of spiritual practice, and maybe I'd had it slightly, but can't start coming strongly until there was lots of practice and lots of understanding and lots of ability to sit with discomfort. Where some people have that as children or have it as young adults, and it terrifies them. They become terrified of not being somebody, or they become terrified of death. It's really interesting, and like a lot of fear can awaken. So to me, these are the three most important things, is the awakening of the I am, the awakening of the consciousness. The I am is the love, the consciousness is the emptiness, and then those two merging, and then you could say it's like a pure being experiencing this, and it's this energetic expansion. So that's the third. It's like these two become lovers, the I am and the consciousness, and then there is a merging and an energetic expansion where those two become inseparable. They sort of go back together, and it's like beyond the personal I am, and it's beyond the personal consciousness. So let me just go to what the emptiness awakening is. So this can manifest in different ways for everybody, and it can be a gradual thing of pulling away, or it can be sudden, and it's kind of the no self side. It's seeing that there is something that is watching that doesn't belong to a body-mind mechanism, or a character, or a feeling, or a thought, or anything in the world. So that which is experiencing is prior to you. And then there's kind of like this activity of witnessing that naturally begins to happen, where more and more there is a resting in that. Initially, a practice happens where you're putting the attention in the watcher, and then there is this natural falling back into it, where it's not an activity anymore. It naturally begins to happen. There's a natural witnessing, and witnessing is separating from thoughts, feelings, ideas, sensations, people, dreams. It's separating from anything. And it's the deep recognition that nothing in this world is experiencing. No solid thing in this world is experiencing. Certainly not you. In fact, you don't even exist. You are habits and conditions and feelings and thoughts arising in this moment and disappearing. You're constantly in a state of flux, whereas the witnessing, the consciousness, is not in a state of flux. It's perfectly still. So your essence is absolutely still, without movement, and empty of all things. And that's not something you find, that's not a destination, it's there already in experiencing. It's here. It's happening. So that is the one side of awakening, this total emptiness. And there might be glimpses of it, and this deep knowing of it, and then more and more through time, a deeper resting of it in it. So it's becoming known all the time, but not by someone. It's like it's coming forward. It's not hiding anymore. It's not being hidden. It's not seemingly lost in movement. What happens with the consciousness is it seems like the consciousness and the person become interlinked. So the person is conscious, and then it feels like the consciousness is moving. The personal attention is seemingly moving, and the personal attention is like a portal. So you put the personal attention in itself, and then you're going back into that expansiveness of what you are. So the personal attention is related to it, but it's not actually it. And it feels like that personal attention moves, like you put it on my nose, you put it on my words, you put it on the birds outside. But when you really go in and you really explore it, like the backside of the personal attention begins to go into this vast emptiness, this no place, this no thing. So for me, and I've spoken about this many times, but I feel like it's a really helpful story for people. Like, so prior to this, there'd already been a recognition of what awareness or big consciousness was. Many tastes of it. But this time it became really clear. Like there were like little different ones. There was one where I was like, oh, God is looking out of my eyes. I've been looking for God everywhere, and God is looking out of my eyes, out of my senses. But this one really changed something. However, suffering didn't end after this. Seeking didn't end after this experience. And then took another 2-3 years, I think, after this experience. But this one was really profound. So I was with Roger Castillo, my teacher in India, and I used to go to these talks of Caesar Terrell in the morning and in the afternoon. This is in Tiruvannamalai. I was maybe like 2008, I don't know when it was, 2009, maybe, somewhere around there. And I laid down on the bed, which I often did in the afternoon, and had a nap between the talks. But this time I stayed awake, or I woke up while I was asleep. Now, this is kind of an impossibility because you can't exactly. So in deep sleep, what's happening is that awakeness isn't, like, consciousness has nothing to be aware of, so there's no ability to remember that you are conscious in deep sleep because there's no things. If there's no things to move, then how can you remember anything? What would you remember? Yeah. So we often feel like we're not conscious in deep sleep, but it's not that we're not conscious, it's just that there's no manifestation, so we can't be aware of anything. Life hasn't manifested a body with a memory to create all these things. So it was in India, I was laying on the bed and I fell to sleep, and then I woke up in deep sleep. So that means that part of the brain was switched on because there was a memory of it. But what happened was there was awakeness for infinite amount of time. It could have been 2 billion, trillion, million, killion, whatever years. It could have been infinite amount of time. So there was a waking up, and there was just pure consciousness, and there was no ability to tell anything. And the awakeness was so contented in itself. It was so deep in itself. It had no urge for anything. There was no sense of lack, there was no sense of boredom, there was no sense of need, there was no emotion. It was just absolutely contented, awake. And finally, after an infinite amount of time, a thought arose. This is what they talk about. Then the second thought arose that said, but if there is a them that talk about this, who am I? And then Lisa came back in. It was like domino. And it was so profound. So I can't remember what came in first. This is like nearly 20 years ago, like 18 years ago. But it kind of went in order, and I've most probably told it in audio when I remembered, but I can't remember the order now. But it was something like so after it was like, who are you? Who are they talking to? Then there was like images, like a domino effect, like dominoes falling over, just coming back in of Lisa's memories and childhood. And then after a certain amount of time, then feeling of the body began to come back in. Then sounds from outside began to come back in, like toot toot from the horns. And then smells began to come back in of India. And then the eyes opened and the room came back in. And it was so profound. It had such a strong effect on me. From that day on, I never forgot that emptiness of what I am. It was so crystal clear. At any time, it was just known. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that know this, that it becomes crystal clear. Because sometimes in the beginning, it's like, you remember, you forget, you remember, you forget. But after that, it was like, there was no not knowing that the source of who I wasn't a person. I could be without the person. I was without the person. My essence, my looking, my consciousness was there prior to me. So it's so confusing when you're lost in the story, because it's Lisa speaking, so you're always personifying consciousness, whereas actually it's consciousness speaking. Consciousness creates it all. It's like so amazing. Yeah. And so after that, but the seeking came back in, because it wasn't completed. There wasn't the energetic expansion, which is like the masculine and the feminine meeting, and boop, poof. Yeah. So after that, the love, it's like they had to meet. There had to be a letting go of more stories in the body, and these two really meeting. So the being one had been on and off, like I really knew the beingness and the I am. And then over the next 3 years of living with Roger, like great intensity arose, lots of Kundalini stuff, lots of pain, lots of joy. But what began to happen towards the end was I would begin to fall in love with things. So someone would be sitting talking, and I'd be so in love with them. It was like love was just like dripping out of their mouth, even if they were being mean, even if they were my enemy, which actually kind of happened. Prior to me and Roger splitting up, there was like what I saw as an enemy coming to stay at our house. An enemy invader. Someone that there was like conflict with. And like they would be speaking, and this person, like, you know, days before I'd been hating them, I had so much anger with them because they were seemingly taking away things I loved. And then they would be speaking, and it would be like love would be dripping off them. And I'd be so in love with them, I couldn't tell the difference between me and them. And I didn't know what that was. So I'd had this beingness, but this was like the beingness was going into them. So I'd had this beingness, this love, which felt like it was in my heart. But then it was like this beingness was in them. So it's like they'd move, and it'd be like divinity moving. And they would be angry, and it'd be like divinity being angry. They would, you know, be competitive, and it'd be like divinity being competitive. But that came and went, and I was like, well, that's nice. And I remember like trying to tell Roger, but Roger never let me away with speaking about experiences. He would just, but I'd just be like, wow, I was so in love with them. Oh, I'm so in love with this car. And I didn't take it as anything, because I didn't know what to take it as. So that began to happen, this like falling in love, and then it'd be back into hating the person or angry at the person, and then falling in love. And then and then this person actually then took away everything. So what I'd feared they would do, they did. Me and Roger broke up. And then I went to Bali to recover. And then what happened is it was like the consciousness and the beingness like really met together. And then this is the third thing. So you've got the consciousness, which is the first thing, the I am, the beingness. The third one is they really met, and then they became impersonal. So they began to expand out of my body. So they stopped being my consciousness, my beingness. And then they began to meet each other in everything. It was insanely beautiful, really disorientating. It really changed my perception of being. You know, it was no longer my consciousness or my beingness. They expanded and then went back into everything. And so those are the three most important factors: the recognition of consciousness, the recognition of the I am, of beingness, and then those two falling back in love until they merge together. And that is the expansion. And how those awaken is so unique to each particular person. You'll all have your own wild journey of them waking up. All that needs to happen is the presenting itself to this subject continuously, to keep coming back to this subject. Not just non-duality, but also the expansion of the person and the settling down of the person. So just keep presenting this willingness to expand, and then this willingness to keep hearing non-duality. Nice. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put your hand up. Please know that it will only be your audio which we put on YouTube when you ask a question, but it will be put onto YouTube. And yes, we have advertisements as well. There is one place left in one of my book clubs on, I think, Tuesday, so if you'd like to book it, you're welcome to book it. We have an event coming up in Berlin over Easter, It's a conference. I think there's not so many places left on that, maybe 10 places left on that, I'm not sure. So if you want to book that, if we're now January and there's only 10 places left, then you might need to do that quickly. Might even be less places than that. Then we also have an event in the south of Europe in June, which is really phenomenal. Yeah, it's mostly silent and it's in nature, a really beautiful spot. It's very simple eco-living. So yeah, very simple accommodation. And yeah, it's just so beautiful to be in silence with a group of people committed to this subject. To just go in. Yeah. So that's that. And then we also have a conference coming up next Saturday, a week today. You're welcome to join. Yeah, you can find all this on my website, which I'm sure is linked in the box below. This is for YouTube, not for Zoom. Yeah, and if you want to join these meetings that you see are recorded and these talks that I'm doing that are pre-recorded, you can join them live by joining the Telegram community. And there will be a link somewhere for that. So just go on my website and look for the live streams. Yeah, because I am doing more private talks now for the live streams. Okay, we go back to Zoom. Any hands up? We have no hands up. Oh yeah, we have Melody. Yeah, you're welcome to unmute yourself, Melody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. You hear me? Hello. Gosh, I related to so much what you were saying. You call it dominoes. In the 80s, there's this video game called Tetris. So the first time I experienced something like you did, and I didn't know what it was in like 2022, but I try to experience as much as I can when I first wake up in the morning. There's like a nanosecond. It's like a split little tiny. I feel like I felt like I saw the pieces of myself. I didn't know how to explain it, but it all came together like Tetris. I would tell people, I feel like it's Tetris. I feel like you come online like in the morning and you could see it happening, and I could feel like, all of a sudden there's nothing. It was pure blankness, but then bring in all the different parts of yourself and your personality, and then all the work and what do I have to do today, and you could feel like anxiety or the stuff, like, I don't know, you could feel it, the individual being created, I guess. Now that's how I explain it now, but yeah, I've felt that. Um and um, I wanted to just mention that, but I also had I guess something I've been practicing lately is also trying to stay in the I am, or I guess that's how you explained it to me a couple of weeks. Like if I'm having a situation at work or during the day, I'm trying to, I'm aware, I'm staying in presence. But now, if something happens that I'd feel sensation, like at work. I had a really busy work week, so it was a great week to practice this. Typically, I'd feel like these major contractions and anxiety, and oh no, I have to get this job done, I have to do everything. But this week I was able to just sit in that and not react, and like a little twinge would happen. Oh no, I have to get this, I got to do all this stuff, at work. There's all this, oh no, I might need to present something to the CIO or all this stuff, where I used to would react to that. I was able to sit there and watch it, and I would just feel the sensation, and it's like I almost wanted to try to go reach up, and a thought would come. There'd be an emotion that I was trying to apply a story, but there's no story. There's no more, like I'm dropping the story of work, Mel, or whatever it is. I don't know if you could talk anything about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still got anxious, and I'd fall back. You just fall back into presence or awareness.
Yeah.
And that would help, but it's like it still feels like work. I still have to work at it, like, so I guess it's not automatic.
Yeah. And social situations are the hardest. Like, so Ramesh Polsaka, he used to say that that it's the relationship that is the problem. Like, in a way, we're in relationship with everything, the door, the room, but he also used to put a lot of focus on human relationship. You know, there's a lot of pressure to be something, to come up with words, to not fall apart, to be vulnerable, to not be vulnerable, to not be yourself, really, you know, to be this idea of sanity. As a woman, it's often to not be aggressive, to be soft, to not be a ballbuster or something. So there's all these ideas that we have in relationship. And something I think that all humans really love is like just dropping into silence during conversation. This is like the most rudest, offensive thing that you can do. So we have to be talking, we have to be relating, we have to be doing at all times. And like really looking in somebody's eyes and really being present with them is like the no-go. So to do that at work, you're like absolutely going against the grain. It will be your biggest teacher to stay present in a work environment that is asleep. It really is that extreme. There might be one or two there that also are awake, but highly unlikely. Almost will all be deeply in seeking, deeply in being something, and deeply in their dream of themselves. So to do that practice, you're kind of in a way doing it for everybody in that environment, which is like really brave and really bold. So it's like every time you do it, and every time there's a dropping back into what's actually happening, it's like a massive celebration. Because when you do it, you're doing it for them all, because in a way they're also all you. So you're kind of doing it for everybody. It's kind of real compassion. And finding more and more confidence that that is the only answer. There is no answer found in pacifying someone, in being nice to someone, and helping someone. The only answer is presence. And then this conviction becomes more and more deep.
Yeah. I love that. Presence is the only answer. That thing. Thank you. That was awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Melody. Yeah, it's really the ultimate compassion. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Ajay, you can unmute yourself. Where did you go?
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
I'm trying. My English is not so very good, but I
Oh, yeah,
try.
no, but thank you so much for speaking English. It's really amazing speaking a second language. And then to speak a second language within and around non-duality, my goodness. That's really an
Yes.
accomplishment. So thank you for speaking English.
I wrote my question in the Telegram group also, so you maybe don't have to react to that anymore.
Yeah.
My question, or maybe it's not a question. I'm experiencing so much fear in my body during the last time, and it's really overwhelming sometimes. So that, I try to do this I am to center, but sometimes it's just like I'm all over the place. Really, yes, overwhelming, and especially when I'm with people in relations, I feel I'm always in. There is always something bad happening. Like I don't know the word. There is always fear that something bad happens, and it's just doesn't make sense.
Has this been going on a long time, or is this something that's particularly come up recently? Or has always been a tendency towards having fear? Or is it something that's come up through
I had a relationship last I had a relationship last year with a man, and after that it came really strong.
Okay.
It's
and
about...
and had there been seeds of it before? Like, had you noticed there was?
Yes.
Yeah. And then it just came really strong.
Yeah, maybe you can tell something about that.
Have you ever tried doing TRE or EMDR? Do you know what those are?
I have read about the TRE, but I've never tried it yet.
These types of things can be really phenomenal for helping the body process that fear. So I don't know why the fear came up, or what happened, in the end of the relationship for that to get released. It could also be your spiritual journey, and they coincide. It's like you're going deeper and deeper into yourself, and then a relationship ending sort of adds to it. But it could also be that they traumatized you. So investigating something like TRE or EMDR could be really helpful for the body to process that and for it to not get stuck in the body. From the non-duality perspective, the reason that the fear comes is because you begin to touch on emptiness. And that can come often if the person loses things. So, or when the person can't find their story. So what's happening in our brains, or what happens in the human brain prior to waking up, is that they're constantly telling a story of themselves. And it might not feel like that as such, but your mind is very quietly and sometimes very noisily repeating where you're going, what you're being, and who you are. So my dog Khaleesi, who's passed now, but when she was alive, we travelled together all over Europe. And one thing that I really loved about her was we could go to unknown places, and as long as she had her bed and sort of the smell of me in a place, I could just leave her instantly. Like, I used to find this really amazing that she doesn't have the ability to know that, say, she's in Italy, or that we're in a hotel, or that we're only staying one night, or that we're going home at a certain time, or that we're in Europe, or that we're in a peaceful country, or that we're safe. None of this even got the ability to communicate that to her. So to her, she's just propelled in the middle of nowhere in a room, and because the dog is much about smell, if the smell is there, then they're generally okay. It depends on the personality type. Khaleesi is a very confident dog in certain ways. And I used to imagine, like what that was like for her, that we would move to these different places and she had no ability to know that. So did she always feel like she was in one place? Like, because she didn't know that she'd been in other places, but yet there were places that she recognized more, that we'd repetitively go to. So what was that like? And how amazing, like, to just be there. There was no tomorrow when we're leaving. It's like, this is all there is. And like, I'd give her dinner. Normally we'd arrive there after a long day of travel. I'd given her a quick walk, and then I'd give her dinner, and she'd be like, okay, home. And then she would fall asleep. And it was really amazing. But for us, we always have to say, where we are. Are you Swedish or
Swiss?
Swiss. Okay.
From Switzerland.
Oh,
yes.
Switzerland. Yeah. So we always have to have this. We wake up in the morning, and it's like, where am I? Who am I? What am I? Where have I been? We're always reminding ourselves of where our position is. So the fear often comes when our position, not all the time, there's different reasons, but in relation to non-duality, fear often comes when our position has been uprooted. So when we've lost something, when we no longer have something, when things change in a different way, and we can't tell the regular story of what we tell about ourselves. And then this can really trigger fear, because in those moments you're beginning to be reminded that our truth is that we're suspended between nowhere and nothing. It's only our imagination that makes us feel like we are somewhere, and makes us feel like we have a life and we know what we're doing with our life and we are secure in that life. And when we begin to go deeper, we are nowhere and no place. And that can be really terrifying. And what can happen is, as we begin to realize that, and there is like an expanding back into nothing, the body can get really traumatized by it, really afraid. You can even begin to have physiological symptoms, like the body can begin to go into panic, its heart rate can increase, because the body and the mind have, from a very young age, been telling you where you are as a means of security. And to go into this mystery that we don't know where we are, we don't know why this is, and we don't know who we are as a thought. We know who we are, we can know who we are as being ourselves, but not as a thought, as an imagination. And what needs to happen is a going beyond that, but you can be gentle. So if the body's beginning to go into trauma, doing TRE, doing somatic work, EMDR, to help settle the body, because it is a fundamentally different way of being, and help the system process the loss of your story. It's not a small thing, the loss of what you thought you knew about yourself. And if it's particularly around a relationship, who you were in that relationship, who they were. So if you find the body's going into too much fear, these exercises can be phenomenal. But just noticing in your experience when there's a disappearing further and further back, and when this no place at no time arises. And actually it's not an enemy in any way, it's what you've always looked for and longed for, to be a mystery.
Oh yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um, it's really, I feel like I lost everything
Yeah.
inside and nothing to hold on.
Yeah.
And it really feels terrifying. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, if you go on my website, and I'm sure there's other people in the community which can maybe put it in the chat, there's things that you can help to do to relax the body, because that's a huge thing. You know, everybody in society is telling you to hold on to things, to be something, and to have, you know, this direction. So yeah, so other people might be able to put it in chat, or if you go on my website on the reference page, you'll find somatic work which can help the body process that and become more comfortable with it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, does anyone else want to raise their hand? Yeah, Katie. Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Katie.
Okay, I did. Hi.
Hi. Oops, I'm sorry, I just muted you. I was trying to pin you. Sorry, I'm asking you to unmute now. Oh, I muted you again.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's actually perfect because I was going to share that what is arising a bit in these meetings, and it's a little problematic, is I want to laugh a lot. I can understand, of course, that and I like my character has this too where it gets all like it seems so funny. I try not to laugh during the satsang because I want to be respectful, and I can feel it's not the only thing. I do I can feel compassion, I do, but there's something that's like so delighted and finds fun in this whole like me, and this is so important. And
yeah, I think laughter is really good. Firstly, because we don't take ourselves so seriously and we don't take the problem so seriously. But secondly, there's something about the laughter and the crying which is having, I think, like an effect on the brain. Like so Roger used to always say that your brain is changing, or the way that you're seeing things is changing. Like I used to sometimes get hysterical laughter when he was talking. It all just seemed so funny, and then he would be so seriously talking, and I just couldn't hold it together. And so his response to that was, it's like the brain is like letting go, letting go, letting go. And then also it's a sign of, like when you were speaking, you said the character, like my character or the character or something. Like it's a sign of this like separation from the personality, that it's not as serious as we thought it was.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm kind of exploring like when does that character come back, and it's like, oh nope, it's serious again.
This is a massive problem.
Yeah. And I think that is like two things I'm noticing around that are like they're like exploring is like when the character comes back, it's like, oh, it's serious now. This thing is like wanting to control, and also pleasure, like loving the story and the pleasure of it and the like excitement and
which is kind of
getting all
funny.
wrapped up in that.
Yeah, that's kind of funny in itself. Like it's like, oh, there's the possibility. Did somebody say chocolate?
Exactly. Yeah, or it's often around like personal or like I don't know, just like what could happen, what could be, and the story of that is like can be very tempting,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden my mind is all like in this is what I'm gonna say, this is what's gonna happen.
And this is what they're gonna say. Then they'll be
Yeah,
amazed.
exactly. And then I'm gonna say this, and yeah.
That's so sweet. And sometimes if you imagine like this happening to an animal, like so if you personify your animals that they're having these
Yeah. The funny thing is too, like when it's more like on the control side, like I want to control and not feel this, not experience that, like it seems so real, and that's where I was kind of connecting with that Tetris or that I forgot the other metaphor that was the domino, like when there's like that aversion or like I don't want to feel that, it's like in this moment that can seem funny too, but it's maybe not. There are moments like where it's not so funny. It's like, no, I want to move away from that, and so I'm just exploring that because actually you can't move away from that really. I don't know. Yeah. Just exploring that, I guess I'll say, in my experience.
Yeah, so Roger taught me that it all comes down to these two different lines. When you're moving away or moving towards, but we're just talking about moving away, is when you're moving away, it's that you're either moving away from fear or you're moving away to try to get love or safety, which are really similar. So, and that's why it feels so serious, because it's those two dynamics, and then they go deeper. So the fear is, if this fear or whatever I'm afraid of will take away my beingness, will take away myself, which you might think is the body-mind, but it's ultimately the beingness. And the not getting love will stop me getting myself, which is the beingness. And then that feels really serious. But you can't ever have something taken away from you because you are always that. But it's that identification with the fear or with the wanting of love that make it feel so serious. They're the most intense feelings there is. And it's not, it comes with the seeking energy, so it always comes with this belief that this fear, this what I'm afraid of, which is not a conscious thing, but it's like this energetic belief, will take me away from home. So it's like you really feel you'll die, or if somebody like steals all your money, you really feel like you'll be in hell. Like that will be really hellish or unbearable. If you see your partner dying or something, that will really take away your freedom. And that's the lie. It will be immensely painful, maybe, these situations, but they cannot take away your freedom. And it's that absolute conviction at all times that freedom is always present, never an activity. It's never in the world. And then the opposite is the love. Like, so if this person abandons me, I will lose love, I will lose my love, and you can never lose your love. A person leaving you can never take away presence. Because they're really here, actually. What they've always been is the here-ness. So Yeah, so if your partner leaves you, yeah, the physical body might, but actually the beingness and the consciousness which you're always actually communicating with, who they truly were, can never leave. They were always here. And it is the negative which makes it feel so much more real. The negative. It really puts the weight in things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. You're like holding in a laugh. Like, for me, when I was used to,
yeah, like joy. It's like joy, joy, joy.
When I was with Caesar, so this is teacher in India. He was really, back then. I think he teaches differently now. He was really into laughter, and he really like just encouraged everyone to laugh. So he could be talking to them really seriously. It was so sweet, and then the person would just be like in hysterical laughter, like it's like bubbling joy. And he would just carry on speaking seriously. It was so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to not smile while you were talking. So I'm glad you said that. I was like, oh no, we're getting serious.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What Roger used to do when I used to live with him is, oh my God, he is such a funny character, Roger Cousteau, if you ever watch him, because he can sometimes be so serious. And we would like be out doing the garden, like that was the big thing we did, was gardening together, and he would be teaching and talking about non-duality, and then I just wouldn't be able to hold it together. Like he might be talking about something really serious and really awful, you know, like about this deep, dark suffering that comes from the ego. And then I would just have to roll around on the floor laughing, and he would just carry on speaking in a very like monotone way. And then I would often get really sleepy, so I'd get hysterical. I would have like a laugh for ages, and then I would get sleepy and have to fall asleep, and I would just literally lay on the floor and just have like a snooze for like 5 minutes. I would wake up and he would be sitting there patiently waiting, and then I'd wake up and he would just start again. And this would just get me hysterical, like as if I was losing my mind in the most beautiful way. Yeah.
That's good to know about the nap part. If I need that, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I have to end actually. I think I played bhajans for a long time. My mum's taking me to the theatre and we have to leave at 5:30. Oh no, it's not 5:30 in England, it's 4:30. Oh, okay, I'm good. I just looked at the time and was like, oh. But yeah, my computer's set to a different time zone. Okay, I'm good to go. Okay, sorry about that. My issues with time. Yeah, if anyone else has a question, you're welcome to put your hand up. I think there's some written in the chat, and I think there's some written in Telegram. I will get to them. Oh yeah, thank you so much, Melody, for writing out the TRE. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, in the chat there is 2 recommendations for TRE. Okay, I'll go to Telegram now. Hey, Melody, you have something to add? Or...
Yeah, I met both of those women there. I met them at retreats, and they're both very nice women. Just to let everyone know, just so you can feel safer.
Yeah.
I know the internet's crazy, but I've met them both. And
yeah.
Angelo introduced me to them both. They met him at his retreats.
They're
both beautiful people.
Yeah, yeah. So it's Kate. What's her last name? Kate, just for everyone on YouTube. Oh, sorry, you just have to unmute. You've muted yourself.
Kate Alvo.
Yeah.
her, and then I can't say it's French. Christina Goudmond. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit unsure about that. And that's I was like, yeah, how do you say that? I gave you the responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, they're actually in a silent retreat now. I think that's the one I was going to do, but my work got too big for me. So God had other plans for me this week. Oh well.
Yeah. Okay. So, questions on Telegram. Yeah, so JL, we've done yours. We spoke, me and JL. And so we'll do Kelly. Hi Lisa, I won't be able to speak today, but would be really grateful if you could say something about this. It feels like presence is coming and going, rather than it being a constant that I can rest back into. Sometimes it feels so large and palpable, almost like an entity in the room. It feels like home, and it's such a relief. It's like a backdrop of love holding everything. At other times there is no sense of it at all. Is this more the beingness that you speak about rather than the empty looking? I notice a desire for this to be there all the time, as life feels completely different when it is. Yeah, that is the love side. And those two have to end up coming together in union. The consciousness, the big consciousness, or yeah, the consciousness and the I amness. Yeah, and it can seemingly come and go, and there's little details to be aware of. So Nisargadatta Maharaj puts it like this. So the beingness, our natural state, is bliss. So Sat, Chit, Ananda. So when Sat, which is consciousness, Sat, which beingness, and Chit, which is consciousness, I think. I always get those wrong. So Sat, which is beingness, Chit and consciousness. So Sat, Chit, Ananda. So those two together make bliss. So you could also call it love. So our natural resting place is bliss. Then he says, the person then becomes blissful, but the blissfulness in the person comes and goes. And you have to be careful not to hold on to the blissfulness in the person. So blissfulness in the person comes and goes. So when you're resting in yourself, it is bliss or love, and then the blissfulness will come and go. So yeah, I definitely find my blissfulness comes and goes. Like, if I'm watching a scary film, maybe there's less bliss, and if I'm talking to someone blissed out, maybe there's more bliss, or if I'm sitting in silence, or blissfulness, as Nisargadatta would say it. But this can become a tripping point, because the person comes back and then looks for the blissfulness in the person. So your natural resting place isn't a quality. It is love, but without any quality. And when the person comes back and the seeking comes back, then it sometimes looks for a state. Or if you're resting in yourself and there is discomfort, you then believe that you've lost the blissfulness, and then the seeking starts. Yeah. And you'll notice that different teachers talk about different things, because sometimes the different teachers, they've had different awakenings, or what I would call, so some people have maybe woken up to the emptiness, some people have woken up to the fullness, and then some teachers have woken up to both. And it really doesn't matter. Whoever you resonate with, you go to. That doesn't really matter, that part. And then you also get different teachers, because then when that recognition, that shift has happened, where they've come together and there's a movement back to that, it then integrates into the body, and I see that as an endless process. So you'll get some bodies that are more in line with this, and some bodies that are less. Like I've noticed over the last 13 or 14 years, however long it is since that happened, that my body's like expanded more. My human has become more and more sane and more crazy simultaneously. Yeah, you're like divine madness, the human's like divinely mad, but at the same time like more sanity's coming. And that's only in comparison to society, really, because society's saneness is really a madness. Yeah, and that doesn't look like a thing, you know, this is the problem. Yeah, that expansion doesn't look like a thing. Yeah. And then as the person expands more, I notice that the person becomes more blissful. So the person, as it sort of lets go of more and more of its karmas and conditions, it becomes more and more blissful. And then to me, like Ananda Mahima is like really at the extreme where she's in samadhi and bliss nearly all the time. She's like the divine goddess. She really is. Thank you so much for your question, Kelly. And sweet picture with your little fluffy doggy. I am currently staying with my mum with her little fluffy doggy. She is so insanely cute. These little ones. Yeah, David. Hi, David. Nice to hear from you. Dear Lisa, I hope you're doing well. Could you explain why you suggested the books Awakening Shakti by Sally Kempton and Shakti Rising by Kavithya M. MD for me? I can't read those words. And you know what's going to happen on YouTube is people are going to ask me to write these words on YouTube, which is always a complication. Yeah, because my spelling is horrendous. I can't even read it. What qualities or traits of mine or lack thereof led you to make these recommendations? Additionally, could you provide guidance or suggest more specific goddess practices that align with my personality? As of now, I believe that I can primarily identify with the goddess Kali. Additionally, I feel utterly disillusioned and lost with nothing to hold on to. The only thing that seems to keep me grounded and okay is surrendering to being, presence, or self. Any insight that can help me gain clarity in the life journey would be greatly appreciated. With much gratitude, David. Yeah, thank you so much, David, for your question. So, I have to admit to you, David, that I haven't finished reading Awakening Shakti or Shakti Rising. So they might have really weird endings and you might be like, what the F? Why did she recommend them to me? So but the reason that I recommended them to you, I'm just going to really go for it and say it, is because when I look at your energy, it feels like your energy is lacking the feminine aspect energetically. I don't know about your personality, we didn't interact that much, but energetically it feels like your being is more in emptiness than it is in the feminist of the fullness, the aliveness. So that's why. To spark the life part, the everything life part, the beingness part. So what would be interesting if you were actually here and I could ask you, is the interesting question would be, what is your relationship to the I am? What does the I am feel like to you? So the other thing that I would recommend to you, even though you didn't ask recommendations, but you did say you feel utterly disillusioned and lost, is to go towards being, which you do self, that is surrendering to being, so you do say that, is to go towards the feminine, to beingness. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. And you can do this in all areas of your life. So you can do and perform bhakti or tantra. And one big practice of bhakti and tantra is sing-song. So you can do kirtan. Yeah. And you can even sing to the female goddesses. But yeah, kirtan is really devotional. You can do your daily life in devotion to the feminine. So you're cutting the vegetables for the goddess. You're opening the fridge for the goddess. You're working out in gym for the goddess. And if it's too much for you to just go to that divine feminine that's completely impersonal, then you can personify it into a female form or a male form that has very strong feminine quality. And yeah, so when you're chopping the vegetables, if you need the imagination of a female form, then use the female form. And it doesn't need to be a living female form. If all women or feminine men irritate you, then you can use, say, Pranya Paramata, you can use Kali, you can use Tara. I mean, why do you think that the images of all these women, I mean, except Kali, but the images of a lot of these women are like these really beautiful, young, sexy, they always seem to have these incredibly pert breasts. The reason is not because that's the ideal feminine. That's not because what all of us females have to live up to. It's because they're trying to evoke something in you. Trying to evoke that attraction, because in the attraction there is actually the divine. So this is what happened to me, which I've told you this before, David, when I was young, very young, maybe just pre-teens, I started to imagine the perfect lover as a man, sometimes as a woman, but I'd imagine the perfect lover. I'd imagine their in detail, every detail. I'd imagine what we'd do together. And as I imagined it, this love in me grew. It was like I began to feel so complete, so fulfilled, so loved, so seen. It was like everything I ever wanted. And in getting everything that I wanted, the image of the person began to fade and the love began to grow until I was just in love. I was just in loveness. So, you know, the Buddha also, the masculine, Shiva has like the most perfect form, physical form, but these are instruments to use. And then there's like all these like crazy stories, you know, where then at the right time, like somebody in a very damaged body, in a very difficult body, in a very, what our society might consider unattractive. And then there is, you know, these whole Hindu stories of, you know, the goddess presenting themselves in this very mainstream, unattractive, and then there is a falling in love with that, the seeing the divine in that. But sometimes we have to start with, you know, what we're conditioned as beautiful to slip into that. So it's like when you're cutting vegetables, you're doing it for the goddess, you know, you're doing it for this beautiful form until you can go beyond to the formless. So you're opening the fridge for the goddess. You're collecting your money for the goddess. You're going shopping for the goddess. Everything is in devotion of that. It's such a beautiful practice. I didn't even know that existed as a practice. I did this accidentally. But this is, you know, a lot of what Tantra and what Bhakti is you start on one object, seeing that as the goddess, And then you begin to go to all objects, that all of that is that divine feminine. You just have to love. And sometimes with them, with men, you know, they can begin to feel this through the sexual attraction. So they might be really disembodied, but the sexual attraction helps them come back into the body, and then helps them reconnect with beingness. This is partly a practice of the tantra, but it's not about sexuality or like ultimately, but it's a tool to use to help bring back in the body. Yeah. I hope that made sense. Yeah. Some form of drunken sense. You just have to love the goddess. That's it. That is all. Yeah, and then, I mean, even if we go into like sexual tantra, you know, this is what it's about in the end, is awakening the feminine and the masculine in you through sexuality. We're so repressed with that in the West, you know, and so if that is something that can awaken it in you, you know, that is, if you can't hear it in other ways, then hear it in that way. And for men sometimes, and for women, but sometimes for men, you know, if they're really disembodied, this is through sexuality is the way they can begin to hear God. I know that sounds crazy because everyone's like, sexuality and God. But this is like the whole Karma Sutra. Not that I'm an expert in it, but yeah, I tried everything. Let me just tell you. I don't talk about it online because I have family and I'm not an expert in it, it's not my expertise. For me personally, I tried everything. Everything. I would do anything to get closer to God. Anything. And sometimes like there's this whole practice of dark tantra as well, and believe me, I did do dark tantra, but I would have done anything. To hear God. You know, any practice that was given. I don't think I would have sacrificed, you know, animals. That's another practice they do. Or humans, for that matter. I think occasion in the long past. Yes, I hope that's helpful, David. Thank you. If anyone else has questions in the live stream, you're welcome to put your hand up. I'll carry on with the ones in Telegram until they do. Oh, okay, there's no more questions in Telegram. That was it. Oh, nice. So maybe that's the end of it today. Yeah, just go around and just say hello to everyone I haven't said hello to. Yeah. Oh, so David is there, I think. Oh, I'm not sure if it's the same David. Got David, 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 all in one. Yeah. Yeah, so hello, David. Yeah, so we got Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Oh, David says it's a different one. Yeah. But hello to you. Oh, thank you, David. So hello, Isabel. Thanks for joining. Hello, Wolfgang. Yeah, hello, Tony. And hello, Chris. Hello, Amelia. And hello, Andrea. And Ramona, I didn't see you there. Hello, Ramona. Yeah. And hello, Catherine. Yeah. Nice to see you. Hi, Claire. Hello. Hello, Petter. And Osborne. Hello, Osborne. And Anka. Hello, Anka. And Bodhidharma. Hello. And hello, Sarah B. And hello, Brian. Hello, Christopher. And Peter. Hello. And Lalit, I hope I said that right. Hello. And Natasha. Hello, Natasha. And Melody. Hello. And Katie. Hello. Yeah, really lovely to spend this time with you. Thank you all for joining. And I really, 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 really wish you all everything with all my heart. Yeah. Yeah. And there'll be no live stream tomorrow. This is just for people on Zoom. So I'll put this up on YouTube tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, lots of love. Bye. Yeah, and thank you for those on YouTube. If you want to join these talks live, I'm doing more talks, as you might have noticed, during the week. Then you can do so by joining the Telegram community. And you can find the links below on my website. Just look up Lisa Cairns live stream on my website and you can find out how to join that. Yeah, and I really, really wish you all everything too. Not one or two or three things, but every goddamn thing. Yeah. Till next time.